If you've ever thought, I would love to license my art, but the industry is way too saturated already, or who would ever hire me when I have no experience, then this video is for you. Hello everyone! Welcome to Art Business with Ness. I'm Ness and I'm a professional illustrator. I've been a surface designer since the end of 2021, so fairly recently, and yes, the industry is very saturated, is quite competitive, but in this video, I'm going to show you that there are still opportunities available for you and how to get started licensing your art even if you're a complete beginner with no experience. And spoiler alert, it's not just the most talented artists out there that get licensing contracts. It's the most persistent ones and the ones who understand what companies truly need. But right before I get into how to land your first licensing contract, I want to address really quickly a couple of myths and beliefs that might be holding you back. Myth number one, it's too late to get started in surface design, it's too saturated, it's too competitive, etc., etc. This is really important to address because I know that it feels right now like everyone and their grandmother is trying to get into surface design. There's so much noise that there's no place left for you. But if you truly believe that it's impossible, then how can you put your 100% into it? You might be putting an hour here or there, creating new designs, but it's so half-hearted. If you don't really believe that it can happen for you, you'll never go 100%. And you need that effort to make it because it's the most persistent ones that do make it. And I want to debunk this because it's actually not even true. Yes, there is a lot of competition, but that doesn't mean that all of the competition is really qualified. There's just a lot of noise, but so many people aren't even pitching their art, which means they're not even really in the running for these gigs. And out of the artists that actually do pitch their artwork, the overwhelming majority doesn't truly understand what companies need. And so they end up pitching a lot of artwork that's never going to be licensed. It's a lot of noise, but how many of these people are actually in the running? That's a much lower number than what you might imagine when you're just looking at social media on Facebook group and surface design communities. It feels like it's so crowded, but the surface designers actually getting those opportunities is such a small number. What happens is art directors' inboxes are just full stock of stuff that they're not interested in. And that can make it a little bit more difficult to get through. But the artists who, first of all, do pitch, and then the artists who pitch the right stuff, they are going to stand out fast and get those licensing contracts. And that can be you if you know what to do. Myth number two is, I need experience in order to get contracts. No one is going to give me a licensing contract when I'm a total beginner. While things like experience, testimonials, collaborations with big brand or large social media following, that's never hurt anyone. Of course, it helps. But in surface design, compared to other illustration industries, it is actually much more possible to get started with no experience at all than it is in some of the other industries. I know this because before I was doing surface design, I actually was a picture book illustrator, and I did find that it was quite difficult to get my first picture book deal. When custom work is required, the client has to really take a leap of faith that you're going to be able to create this artwork that you say you can create, but that they can't see right now in front of them. They have to take you at your word that you are capable. Picture book illustrators who already have experience are definitely favored because it gives the art director a little measure of security that this person is actually going to be able to do the job. Now, of course, it is possible still to get your foot in the door in picture book illustration. That's a topic for another day. It's much more difficult. In surface design, however, you have a big advantage because how it works in surface design is we create the artwork first and then we shop it around, right? We pitch it to companies. Companies get to see exactly what they're going to get. They don't have to have blind faith in you. If they see the artwork and they like it, they're going to license it. It's very low risk for them. So they don't care if you're new, they don't care if you don't have any experience before, they don't care if this is your first ever licensing deal. If the artwork is perfect for their product, they're going to get it. It can be quite a short transaction. It can happen really quickly. In fact, when I first started pitching in late 2021, I got my first licensing contract about 2 weeks after I first started pitching. And that was so much faster than my experience in picture books illustration had been. It happened so quickly, and it can for you too. As long as you're creating marketable art, it's very possible for you to get your first licensing deal by the end of this year. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk about how to actually get your first licensing contract. It is quite a simple 4-step process. Step number 1 is to build your portfolio. You need to have some artwork to show to companies. However, you need less than maybe you think. 12 art samples is a perfectly good enough number to start with. You don't need 40, 50, 100 designs. We all have to start somewhere, and 12 is good enough to start showing companies what you can do. Of course, you don't want to just showcase 12 random ass pieces of work. Showcase your consistent signature art style and showcase your fit for commercial products. Step number 2 is to pitch your work to art directors. I know that this step is so scary, and as a beginner, maybe you're thinking, who am I to send my portfolio to companies? But if no one sees your art, no one can buy it. And no, just posting on Instagram is not enough. Don't wait for companies to come to you. Go to them. As scary as it is, this step is actually quite simple. Just send an email, introduce yourself, and put in a link to your portfolio. That's it. It doesn't have to be complicated because you want to let your art do all the talking. Step number 3 is to follow up multiple times. This is where that persistence that I talked about earlier is really important. Pitching isn't really about how many different companies you hit up. It's about how many times you hit up the same company. This is where that high competition can be a little bit of a hindrance because there's so much noise. It can take a little bit of doing to get noticed. But as long as you send in the right kind of art and you persist, you will get noticed eventually. Deals very rarely happen in the first email anymore. They happen in the 3rd or the 4th or the 5th email. So the artists who actually get the licensing deals are the artists who kept themselves in the race and kept sending follow-up emails. And step number 4 is to sign the contract. When the art director sees a piece of art that's like exactly what they have on their buy list, things can start moving really fast. If they like the design, they'll license it immediately, simple as that. Most companies that use artwork regularly will already have a contract in place that they will send you, but just because they have their standard contract doesn't mean that you can't negotiate. It's possible to haggle on the price, on the copyright situation, and all the other conditions of the deal. Doesn't mean that they'll always be able to give you what you want, but if you don't ask, you don't get, right? Remember that the art director actually really likes your work and they want this design. So you actually have the upper hand in this negotiation. You don't have to settle for bad rates and bad conditions. So that's it. Those are the 4 steps. Sounds simple, right? Well, it is, at least on the surface. The process itself is quite stunningly simple, but you can pitch all day long. If your art isn't marketable, then companies aren't going to license it. This is the key to getting surface design work, is having marketable artwork, and that can be a lot more difficult to get right. Companies are looking for artwork to put on their products that is going to help them sell more of these products. They don't buy art just because it's pretty. They have a very solid strategy to appeal to the mass market. So how do you know if your art is actually marketable or not? And what kind of artwork do companies actually want to buy? That's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next video of this 5-video series. So if you're serious about landing surface design contracts and you want to stop guessing what companies actually want, then hit subscribe and watch out for the next video. I'll tell you exactly what kind of art sells. I'll see you there!